successful business, but there's a lot of balance there between the GEA, your love of cycling, so forth. So how do you manage that?
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for asking me. Yeah, well, it wasn't always so. There's a couple of things that sort of led me to here having more balance. It took a while to sort of learn that balance makes you better at the things you focus on when you're focusing on them. So for years it was business and nothing else outside of family and 3 young kids. I always got involved in the coaching because I'm the type of person that can't sit in the sideline. I have to be doing something, and the GA is great for involving. I coach soccer and Gaelic with my girls and my son currently. And it's great. Coolest going through a purple patch, great win yesterday, and our own minors are in the semi-final. But as you guys in Kildare know better than me, lockdown has kicked in, and all games are off for us at minor level and below, which is frustrating, but it is what it is. We're training through it, but we just can't play the games.
Okay.
But to answer your question on balance, it's all about energy. It's all about energy, and I try to make sure my energy remains high, and that's why the sports side of things, whether it's coaching or cycling or whatever else, it feeds into the energy.
Okay. And Greg, bring us back 23 years ago. Obviously, born salesman. It's what you're passionate about. How did you build the company now to what it is?
Well, very quickly, I was in college. I didn't know that sales was where I'd end up. My dad had his own business importing fruit, and I guess he was buying and selling. So I picked up some of that because he was bringing me into the business from a young age, as well as my older brother and older sister. And college was marketing, and then I was supposed to go into my dad's business, but I could see the stress and strains I was having on him. So I got an interview with Canon, and being competitive, there was 20 people for 2 jobs, and I kept fighting. 4 interviews later, I got offered the job and took it. And that was sales, and it was very difficult. It was 1985. There wasn't much people buying anything at the time. We were basically driven out to Glasnevin industrial estate. There wasn't too many industrial estates in Dublin at the time. And we were left off at 9 o'clock and told to find business, knock on doors. And basically it was a test to see if we'd survive. And we did that for 2 weeks, pretty much between that estate and in town. But the business, ultimately having a good role model in my dad, having started his own business, and having had some lean years and some successful years, I felt I always wanted to be in control of my own destiny, and having my own business was going to be the way to go for me. In 97, how it came about, I was always hoping through my sort of from 85 through to 97 that I'd find an agency. Somebody would say, this guy's a brilliant salesman, I'm going to give him an agency and he can sail into the sunset. But it wasn't going to work that way. And I realized that ultimately it was about clients. If I had enough clients, somebody would then want me to have an agency, if that made sense. And I was in office equipment. I'd worked in the US, I'd worked in the UK. I've always liked the Rico brand because I thought they were quite innovative, more so than some of the other brands that were out there, because I'd worked with them in Los Angeles. And I set up in 97, rented an office in Dublin too, took ownership of a small business because I wanted a receptionist, because I felt if I was answering the phone, my business wouldn't look that big. And it was always, when the phone rang, it was always about we are doing this. In other words, I was trying to big ourselves up, even though there was only me. And then there was a reception person who was also doing some typing and some secretarial services. And then when she didn't arrive in a couple of days, my dad would come in and play that role for a couple of days. And it was just from there, as organic growth. I got back onto my college, and I said to my sales and marketing, Katrina Lawler, who's still in college, in the College of Marketing Design, could she send me the best of the crop in terms of salespeople, and started hiring young college grads. And we hired probably about 5 over the first 3 years. And I would have said mostly successful, and still in touch with a few of those guys. That's where they started their career, and it was great to work with them and mentor them in sales. Yeah.
And
so it was getting clients.
Yeah, and Gavin Duffy was talking about that last week, Greg, the importance of focusing on sales now more than ever. But you've an extra challenge, you guys. I mean, you developed a business model that supplies office equipment to people who are no longer in offices. How did you pivot? What were your what have you done to survive the last 7 months?
It's been tough for everybody. So we were fortunate in that we've got a lot of loyal clients who we were ringing up to say, hey, we don't know how this is going to play out. As a business ourselves, we had already encouraged some remote working, myself included. I was pretty much 2 days a week working from home. Because of what we do, we obviously embrace the technology. Everybody had laptops. Once we got the call on that fateful 9 p.m. call from Leo that Friday night, we had everybody working from home as of the following week. We followed the government guidelines. We couldn't get into offices. So we were brainstorming. We had some clients who wanted to buy printers for their houses. That happened about 3 or 4 weeks in. So we got some decent orders on that side of things. We thought that temperature controlled cameras for offices was going to be the way to go. So we spent a lot of time putting that up on our website, finding the right products. Turns out a cousin of mine had some experience. He led me down. We eventually got the model in play, and then it turns out that they weren't going to be in demand. So that was a bit of a cul-de-sac for us.
Yeah.
So it kept us busy, I guess, for that period of time. And sometimes just being busy is good, right? Because it's positive energy. With the work from home bundles is something that we started to think people are going to need. Could we package up some items like laptops, like wrist risers, lumbar supports? And we sent out a fair few quotes in June and July. We engaged with clients and zero happened. And I was really surprised by that. And it's just timing. So then early August, we engaged with one particular large company, I won't mention their names, but it was quite substantial order, landed late August, which is now being fulfilled pretty much as we speak to homes across Ireland, to these employees of this large company. So my point being is that even though you're chasing down what sometimes looks like a dark alley and it feels like it is a cul-de-sac, sometimes it's just timing. I mean, it's been proven. There's a great TED talk around, the biggest factor in successful businesses, more so than funding, more so than energy, is generally timing. So on our print side of the business, because it's office print and nobody's in the office, we saw it decline by 90% in April. And we were back up to roughly 48% of volumes up until our lockdown. Yeah. So we haven't seen the figures come true yet to see how that's impacting. All our devices, 90% of our devices tell us if they're sick. They also give us their reading, so we can get fairly prompt information about what's happening in our database of devices. So we manage them. And we've got a lot of hospitality clients, and obviously the hotels are very stretched. My mantra all along to the businesses is that these people have spent lots of good money with us over the years. If they're having problems at the moment and the machine is broken and they need to spend money, we'll fix it for free because we want to play the long game. We supplied 2 printers to a hotel in Cork last week because the machines that they're replacing are out of end of life and are broken. But we just said we swap them out with secondhand machines. So we're robust. We're 23 years. I don't know if it's worth saying that we did during the good years build up a good balance sheet. Much and all as I like nice cars, etc. But I don't need a house in the Seychelles. We were putting the money back into the business from day one. So when 2007 hit, 2008 hit, we were in good shape. We owed money at that time to the bank and beyond. We had a premises, but we're now clear of all debt, which makes putting the head on the pillow at night easier when stuff like this happens. So my recommendation is if when the good times are good, always burrow some away. So because nobody knows what's around the corner, evidenced by what's happened in March.
Yeah, Greg, you mentioned contact with your clients. Do you put much store in that and much value in that constant, even now, just checking in with clients to see if they're okay? Do they need anything? That relationship, even if it's not sales.
Oh, it's in my DNA. I think, Jackie, I would promote that wholeheartedly. Networking is something that I embraced. When I came back from living abroad for 7 years, I said to my older sister, I need to get back into the business world. I left when I was 23. I was then 30. I felt that I'd lost all my contact base. So I said, how do I sort of build this up fast? He said, join the chambers, which I did. And that led another journey of sort of 20 years of heavy involvement in chamber. And what I didn't realize at the time was I was networking every time I was out there. But I didn't see it as a way to get business. I saw it as developing relationships. I was say, hi, I'm Greg, would you buy something from me, please?
Yeah.
I got to know people over the years, and that I think has served me a premeditated strategy. I'm interested in people, and I think in the first few months getting my head around, I listened to too many webinars and seminars at the time. Everybody was trying to gather information just to get their head around this. So a bit of fatigue kicked in between Zoom meetings, etc. But ultimately, I challenged myself to have 2 long conversations a day with people who have been good to Digicom over the years to see how they're doing. And so I believe we've built meaningful relationships. There's a thing in the States I learned, which maybe is a bit trite, but it's sort of EMBER, E-M-B, remember EMBER, E-M-B-E-R, establish mutually beneficial everyday relationships. So I picked that up in the US, and it's something that it's an easy one to remember, EMBER, establish mutually beneficial everyday relationships. And if you do that, it's going to serve you, I think.
Yeah, and I think we're all guilty, Greg, of possibly losing that connection over the last 7 months, because it's almost like we're out of the business, and we're all remote working. Is that, where you would have met the 1 or 2 people at a coffee dock, or you might have bumped into them at a chamber meeting, those opportunities aren't there, but you've built that practice in, which sounds really, really sensible. It's something all our clients could be considering what to do going forward to maintain and cultivate their relationships with potential clients.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously a large advocate of video conferencing. Is what we do, what we sell. We set up the first video conferencing booth in Dublin in 2001 after 9/11 and lost our shirts on it, but we learned a hell of a lot. We lost 30 grand, I'll never forget it. But at the time it was a huge amount of money. The reason I bring that up is that what I realized then with video conferencing is it's far easier to conduct calls like this when you've met the person before. There's people on this call who are looking at me and I'm looking at them on a screen, but I don't really know them. They don't really know me, right? If we had a coffee face-to-face at some point in the past, the resonance of this conversation would be at a far higher level. So when lockdowns are over, etc., and that was the beauty about setting up in Dublin too. You could meet people. I used to bring in lunch for a while, and then I realized, hang on a second, get out of the office, number 1, and guess what? I keep bumping into people. Even when I'm queuing for a sandwich, I would talk to somebody in front of me or behind me, and you'd see them turn. Oh, and they obviously the common denominator is, where do you work?
Yeah.
Oh, I've set up a company called Digicom. Really? And most people want to help us new startup, right?
Yeah.
So it was a great way of just getting it out there. Oh, there's your man to set up his business. How's he doing? Maybe we could help him.
Greg,
my point being,
yeah. And apologies, guys. There's some delay with Greg's line, but we'll endeavour to keep going along, because it is a really interesting story, and I've learned so much from Greg in terms of, I suppose, how he's built and grown this particular business. Greg, I'm a big advocate of lean and lean processing. It's often, I suppose, just associated with manufacturing. I'd be interested to hear about your own experience, because I know you've used the lean process method.
Yeah, we initially around 2011, I guess, 2012. Well, first I should say about 2 years into the business, 3 years into the business, we actually used our accountancy firm at the time to develop some processes around paperwork, even just around orders. Processing an order. We didn't have a system, and that was the first mistake I made in business. Well, one of the biggest ones I made early is that I didn't start off with an accounting package from day 1. I trained myself up on Excel and Excel is great and all the rest, but it hurt us in year 2 of the business without, then embracing an accountancy package. And they're inexpensive. And the Big Red Book, who Marco Dwyer, who runs it, I would promote his business for him because he's very proud of how he's built his business. And it is as you pay as you go. So it's out. It's easy to do. It wasn't so quick. It wasn't so easy to get those packages at the time, is what I'm saying. But embrace it day one. So as my mother used to drum into my head, it's inevitable. Embrace it. If you need an accounting system, if you need a good accountant, if you need a good lawyer, whatever, get them on board early so you have them there. You may not need them day one, but who knows? But in terms of Lean, 2012, we brought in, through some government subvention, a Lean methodology. And I have to be honest, it didn't work. And why I say that is that that's not down to the methodology of the program. That was down to me, and it was a change in management issue and getting people on board. And I didn't understand at the time, the necessity to educate those involved as to why we were doing it. And the why is really crucial in anything, especially change management. What we did say was, hey, this needs to happen, off you go, right? So the second time around, we re-embraced the same program pretty much, but we knew what mistakes we'd made. So a year later, we found that, some really stupid stuff that you'd think, but it turns out it's as clear as the nose in your face when somebody who has the experience points it out to you. So effectively, if you got 6 steps in a process, can you bring it down to 4? Sometimes you got 16 steps. The amount of duplication in our business, even now, still concerns me. We're in the market, we're looking for a new ERP system, and Enterprise Ireland has just approved us for grant aid. I haven't been great at applying for grant aid in the past, just too busy moving forward. But I just think that you have to, if you're going to bring something new into business, at the moment this is change which has been forced upon us. But if you're bringing in change that isn't being forced upon us, you have to really sell the why, and then work with the people about embracing it for their benefit and the business's benefit. Some people are concerned. Sometimes Lean could mean that their jobs might be at risk, but no, that's not. In terms of if you got more process and you're more automated, you may not need people. But what it actually means is the business can grow, and if the business isn't growing, then good people, if they're not growing, will leave anyway. So the business has to grow, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And just, we've got a new Lean cluster for service industry companies launching next month. And I'm trying to encourage as many of our clients to review it. As I say, most people review it and look at it similar, just solely for manufacturing. But companies like yourselves have seen to benefit, particularly around productivity, by using Lean methodology. And I suppose even during the lockdown, some of those Lean principles, have made work a bit easier.
I don't think we would have transitioned to working from home in a way that has it has impacted us, obviously, but it has meant that we have survived and continue to survive, and our clients expect us to be able to deliver when they need us. And we've had certain issues about getting on site. So won't go into detail, but we had one serviceman who needed to get into the airport and had to get on the air side of the airport, if that makes it, to fix something. And through his own, because we could show on his mobile that who we were and how we were going to do things, he managed to get through and get something fixed rather than having to come away, go back, come away, go back. So, embracing technology, online, mobile, has been another aspect to this that we all know. Online has been there, but the speed now and the inevitability of needing to be online is just crucial. It's die without it,
You've been very heavily involved with Joanne Hession and the LIFT program, Greg. Could you share some leadership thoughts with us that might help some of these smaller businesses get through the next few months, and look ahead in 2021?
Sure. Well, we both did that leadership course, which was a bit of an epiphany for me because I realized all the mistakes I'd been making in the past by going on that course. The epiphany for me to a large degree was my management style. And as you might remember, there's a Daniel Goleman, the 6 different management styles. And it turns out there's 2 that are negative and 4 that are positive. And I happen to be the leader of the negative one, which was the pace setter. Come at my pace, do what I say, and so from a leadership perspective, you have to be far more empathetic than that. So like, if I remember rightly, Jackie, in that course, it says something along the lines that it's like playing golf. Sometimes you need a driver, sometimes you need a 7-iron, sometimes you need a putter, depending on the situation. But if you try and play every shot with a driver, then you're gonna have problems, right? And it's funny, I don't play golf that much anymore, but I watch people, and certain people just are bombast, just whack. Certain people are very nuanced, right? And then you see their characters and they can be similar as well. But that whole self-awareness piece is massive. So from a leadership perspective, as you know, we did the Myers-Briggs type of profiling to get an understanding. So good leadership starts with being aware of who you are, what you are, where you are. Values are a significant aspect for that. Not this year, but last year, in March of last year, I went down west with my bike, booked a hotel, and spent 2 days pretty much working on my values. What did I stand for? And Joanne Hessian from Lyft helped me with that, in that she thought it was a good idea and encouraged me with how to do it. And that in itself is a really good exercise, because when you come to T-junctions in your life and you go, wow, I can't go straight, can't keep doing what I'm doing, I got to go that way left, I got to go that way right. The decision is helped when you compare, does left match my values or does right match my left? Which one matches more? So that's been really useful as an exercise. Energy, I mentioned earlier on. If I track the successful years of the business or successful quarters, when my energy was very high, by coincidence, usually the business was doing well as the driver of the business. Thankfully, I'm less and less the driver of the business. I've been working really hard to work on the business, to get out of the business for the last 3.5, 4 years. I was lucky by being president of Chamber of Commerce, which was never a plan. It just sort of in the right place, right time for 2015. Because I was out of the business so much, Jackie, I basically got a helicopter ride through my business just by being out of it. I could see it from a different angle. So we encountered that concept in college, which was get on the balcony. Yeah. Get away from being on the dance floor, go up on the balcony and look down and see what's happening. So Chamber delivered that to me. Didn't expect it nor anticipate it, but embraced it as soon as I saw it for what it was. And what happened around me, which was starting, by the way, we grew 40% in that year. Which was
without you.
Without me driving the business.
Yeah.
Now the profile helped of growth, but people had to step up, right? People had to step up, and they did. And it empowered them. And people grew through that process. And then when I came back in and started asking questions, it was like, oh, geez, he's back again. Would you go away again? So I learned to cede control, if that makes sense, right? So in the month of May just gone by, with the management team, we had to make some tough decisions. And I said at the Zoom meeting, number 55 or whatever it was at the time, that I'm not making those decisions. I'm not going to be involved in those decisions. I want you to make them and then come back to me, and then we'll sit down and go through them, but they're your calls. You own those decisions, what we do and how we go forward. I will contribute, I will strategize, I will do whatever's necessary. So that idea you asked about leadership was the servant leader, right? So my job, I believe, as a owner and a managing director of the company is to serve those people making decisions on the front line. It's not my decisions anymore. Yes, what's happened in COVID is, and this is why it's extra frustrating for us owners of a business, is all major decisions gravitated upwards, because when stress, anxiety happens, everybody looks and say, hey, I need somebody to make a decision. I'm not prepared to make it because it could be more than my job is worth. It could fail. Yeah. And so it fell to me. So yes, I didn't shirk the responsibility of making the decision, but I understood that all roads led to me at that time. So I had to be there. I sat in on calls and I went, God, we've talked about this 6 different times. How many, that was what I was thinking, but I couldn't say it. So I also brought in the chairman to the business 5 years ago. It was the guy, Joe Cunningham, who's been great. And I've learned a lot from him, watching him chair the business, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
in a very
Yeah.
even-handed style. So I sort of copying him to some degree is letting people talk it out, because even though they're not making sense to me, they're working it out in their own minds. And they need to do that. And they need to feel in a comfortable environment to do so. And that's what I'm trying to create in the business now is let people flourish by giving them the control they need, but also command and control is not a good way to manage a business. It's not the army, right? And also in the front line of the business, sorry to finish on this, Jackie, I remember McDonald's reading something about the fact that they needed to empower their frontline work. So the person who was reading the client had to improve their people skills. And the business grew like 25% within 12 months of that training program, just working on the frontline people skills. So we did, I don't know how I'm coming across this call, but we got somebody in about 6 weeks into COVID to go on a Zoom call with all the staff and tell us what we're doing wrong. The backdrops were wrong, the lighting was behind me, some
Yeah.
people were hiding, some people were over here, some people doing this. I had porridge one morning during the call and I was chastised. You don't eat when you're on one of these calls. Simple stuff, right? But
Yeah.
it was in the papers at the weekend regarding, are you a Zoomer or a non-Zoomer? The economy is going to break down to, can you make money by being on Zoom? And if that is the side of the world that you fit in other words, you're going to be online, you have to embrace it. Certain people, like hairdressers, for instance, won't be able to make money off of Zoom, as in it's a different side of the economy, right? So there's so much going to be online that if that is how you're going to make your money, you've got to get good at it.
Yeah.
Are better than the next your competitor. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a challenge.
Well, just to
The other thing
finalize.
that I think
Yeah.
is mentioning, Jackie,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Jackie, just
No,
the
go
law
ahead.
of the lid. The law of the lid, I think, is something that really sticks with me. And I've said it to a few people and they all go, oh, I get it. So if it's helpful, if you're, if there's 10 layers of leadership competence and you're at 7, you cannot get those around you to 8 until you get to 8. Or you need to get them to 9, you need to get to 9 first. So I spend a lot of time reading, listening to webinars, podcasts. The great thing about cycling is that I can listen on my speaker to podcasts, reading the papers, being up to date, lifelong learning, just a curiosity about what's going on in life. It really serves you well. So the law of the lid, in other words, if your lid is at 8, nobody's going to get to 9 around you. It
Yeah.
just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Absolutely. And look, that's been fascinating. And most certainly, can I just say, Greg, we haven't been talking much since we finished that leadership program, but my God, it's unbelievable to hear how you've transformed. And certainly from what I would have, the time I would have spent with you, control was very important to you. And to hear that you were able to step back from that part of the business and allow people to grow and acknowledge they could do it without you if you just gave them the space. And I think we're all guilty of that, feeling indispensable. And perhaps by that, we're not empowering people who could actually drive the business for us. So, um, thank you. I'm going to open it up to the floor. I think, Noel, you've some questions.
I do. So there's a couple of comments there to pop through. I have a private comment where somebody actually, please don't read my name out, but they reminded me of a start your own business course that I delivered, Jackie. So I can't remember how long ago it was, but in Kildare. And they picked up on Greg saying, you got to big yourself up. And my advice at the time was, along with your own email, so noel@yourbusinessname.ie, get an accounts at yourbusinessname.ie or .com and send all your invoices from your accounts. And they reminded me of that. And funny enough, an accountant just jumped in. Hello, Deirdre O'Keefe. I promised I wouldn't tell anybody, but she actually said, I can absolutely relate to the concept of trying to create the image of a larger company to try and portray the image of success, even though we shouldn't have to. Shh, don't tell anyone, but my phones are currently diverted to my husband/receptionist, which is brilliant. So well done, Deirdre. I told you I wouldn't tell anyone. But Deirdre actually had another comment at the end there, and you might expand on it. During lockdown, I took the opportunity for the first time ever to use the lean process method. And we, without going into too much detail, withdrew from a few contracts that were not efficient, and allowed us to take on far more clients since that we freed up resources. So Marion Egan had asked, what is the lean process method? So expanding on Deirdre's comment, you might explain lean.
Who do you want to do that, Noel? Do you want Deirdre to give an example of what she did in lean?
Well, I've asked her to unmute there, but
I've done
I know
it.
Deirdre's
I've done
very
it.
shy,
I've done
of
it.
course.
I've done it. I didn't actually know it had a name, to be completely and utterly honest. Like everyone else, COVID, we were down staff, whether we liked it or not. And I really got to look at my accounts, what I was putting into it. I was working in the office from 6 in the morning until 5 or 6 in the evening. And I just knew this wasn't normal. I couldn't carry on like this. And I suppose I just took the opportunity to look at all the different clients I have. I, for the first time ever, recorded my time that I worked on accounts. And I really pinpointed a few clients that it was silly. I wasn't making money on it. It was taking up all my resources every day. And it meant if somebody new came to me, I would nearly feel worried to say yes, because I didn't know if I could do it. And I did. I just took the decision, and I knew it was probably so silly given what was going on to essentially turn away money. But I just did it, and I have to say it was the best decision I ever made. And I don't know if it was just like good timing, good luck, but new clients have come on since then, and it's just been amazing. And my time is now just more efficiently spent. Like there's just no point taking on a job if you're just losing money, because I have to value my time, which I never did, and I do now. I don't even know if that's lean process method.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
I think, Greg, you might have got rid of a few as well. That ego makes you keep an awful lot of people on. Greg, what are your own thoughts on customers that just don't deliver any value to the business?
Well, I should confess that I'm a pack rat in the first place, so I don't let things go. I mean, I'd have stuff going back years. So clients-wise, if you're taking that helicopter view, being up on the balcony, you absolutely have to make some decisions and let those go, because you've got to value your time, as you say, Deirdre. Without valuing your time, then if you don't put a high value on yourself, nobody else is going to do it. Yeah, unfortunately, there are some clients who are holding you back and basically taking that energy away from the business. So I think you have to be circumspect. And I think it was Jack Welch who was in favor as an author, business author for many years, isn't as much in favor now, but he had this concept with GE, which is that they would analyze their business, and every year the 10%, the lowest 10% of clients they'd let them go, make a decision, that's it, so that they could grow. And they did. Right, so not always easy, but if it's like a go up goal. If somebody isn't giving you or feeding you information that's making you go up, then it's the drainers. What do they call it? Radiators. There's radiators and drainers type of people. Clients can be the same.
Yeah,
you know,
radiators and vacuums is the way I remember it. Radiators and vacuums.
No return. Thank you, but no thanks. Vacuums. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more questions, Noel?
Yeah, so a really good one on networking, because I was asked here as president of the Dublin Chamber of Commerce, and I know you've moved on from that now, Greg, and passed it on the mantle, but the question is, how important is networking during COVID, and how are you managing in an organization like a Chamber of Commerce to hold meetings and network in the current restrictions?
It's hugely challenging. Chamber-wise, I'm not as directly involved, but I do know that they are holding like this conversations around well-being and mental health. They were doing that for several weeks on a Monday morning like this, like a coffee and a chat with somebody who has some motivational aspect to their lives where they've overcome something or they've achieved something. Obviously, a lot of the Chamber's events were related to person-to-person type meetings. I love person-to-person type meetings. It's where, that's how you get to know somebody. So can you do the same over Zoom? It's more difficult. It doesn't mean you stop doing it though. Picking up the phone to somebody, one of the positive things about this COVID is that because we're all in it together, never more is somebody being receptive to you ringing them up and say, hi, how are you getting on? I'm struggling here. Or can you help me? Or have you done this before? I'm trying to do this. And you know what? This kid's living in my house full time, or whatever it is, we're not making any sales, or when we do make a sale, the margins is there, or we've got supply issues. So from a networking perspective, absolutely it's challenged more, but reaching out to people and doing it in a polite way. And the other thing I learned from the States is that their directness. We sometimes ring somebody up and try and plumaz somebody and be nice, and it takes 3 sentences to tell us why we're ringing them. The first thing you say is, hi, Greg here. I'm ringing you because I'm trying to make a sale, and this is why I think you're appropriate to talk to you about this bit of business. Or, you could help me, and this is how I'd like you to help me. Be very quick in with the ask so that people know where they stand. And I think most busy people especially will appreciate that. That's the other thing is that whilst everybody is sort of busy, they're more available, all right? You can't get away with saying I'm out of the office or I'm in, you will get people, But bear in mind that networking, everybody maybe has heard this before, but it does resonate. Your network is equal to your net worth, right? It was another American saying, right? But if your network is strong, it does coincide and deliver more value. I think if you are networking, it helps to be up to date in what's going on, because conversations with people you haven't met before, you should be up to date, and reading the papers is useful. Yesterday, I go through the papers on a Sunday, because it's a habit now, but there's always potential new clients in newspapers. So 2 companies announced. One, I have a picture of it here. Yesterday, we get leads from the newspaper every weekend, and it gives us somebody new to call on a Monday morning. So a company called Integro is to create 50 new jobs. That was in the Sunday Business Post yesterday. They're based in Kilkenny. Edwards announced new service technology centre and 120 jobs. So a vacuum engineering company, Edwards, is opening up a centre in Blanchardstown. There's 2 opportunities for us that we didn't have on Friday, that we have on Monday. It might take a while to get them, but so you can opportunity spot along the way. And networking is another way of asking somebody, hey, if you're not in the market for this, do you know somebody who might be? Can you give us a help here, So I don't know if that answers the question, does it?
Absolutely. And I just see it flagging up there, a question around which leadership course that you did, Greg. Both myself and Greg did the IMI leadership course, and it was funded in part by SkillNets. And they still do that. They do a series of diplomas funded. So contact SkillNet Ireland, and you'll get a list of IMI programs that they're still funding.
Super. One quick question for Greg. You mentioned a time management TED talk. They're asking what was the actual talk. Can you remember the speaker or how to find it online?
I'll find it, Noel, and send it to you if I may. It was an individual American guy, and I've watched a lot of TED talks, but I'll find it. It was an entertaining talk, but ultimately he did the analysis, and timing was the most important factor.
Yeah,
not the only factor, but it was the most important.
I can throw that up into recording for when it goes back live. What was again?
He'll come back.
Oh, that's grand.
I'll look for it while we're talking if I can find it.
Okay, so Jackie, while Greg is doing that, Marion had asked about Lean earlier on. Is there any plans with Kildare Leo to run another Lean program? I know there was one last year, pre-COVID.
Yeah, we've two. Um, the two starting second week in October. One, in fact, three. One is called Lean for Micro General. Then there are two clusters. One is for the service industry, to create a service industry cluster, and also one for the manufacturing sector. So I'd suggest if anyone's interested in the information that they send an email to local enterprise, express their interest in the lead program, and John will get in touch with them.
So it's a good time. We do it every week, but it's a good reminder to have to remind ourselves of the website, localenterprise.ie/Kildare. And I did say it changes nearly on an hourly basis, never mind on a daily basis. And you can see that since we were here last week, National Women's Enterprise Day has been announced, and that's taking place on October 14th, all online. And there's some really good speakers and sessions planned for that day. You can see, as Jackie said, the training has started to fill back up, and keep an eye there for the lean for micro. Sorry, Jackie, you were going to say something.
I was, because it just ties back into Greg. I know Greg, not only in terms of his advocacy and in developing leadership skills as an entrepreneur, he's also a great advocate of looking after one's well-being. And if you just scroll back down the screen there, Noel,
I'll do
this
that.
was something that I felt very yeah, the Mindful Business series. Mindfulness is a short and practical course introducing people to, and I think none more than now, people actually should be looking after themselves, being kind to themselves. And maybe this mindfulness course could actually support and help them in the start of that. It's a very, very, if you haven't been involved in this particular area before, it's the first time we've put up a non-technical program, if you like. But I thought the timing was really appropriate now. And there are some places still remaining. That €10, as we've discussed on previous weeks, Noel, it's not a charge. It's simply a booking fee. We're giving as much training away as possible. But if somebody pays 10, at least I know they're going to turn up.
Yeah, and you're being very diplomatic there. So I'll say what everyone is thinking. It's skin in the game. We've seen this
Yeah.
before, where training is listed for free. You get 80 people booked on it, and 26 people turn up.
Yeah.
Whereas you charge a tenner, they're going to turn up. So we might as well do that. Also, actually, it's a good occasion. I can see that there's a management development program with Blaise Brosnan also there sitting down. And then the online bookings. If you keep an eye on all the events and the training sessions that are appearing, you can see that they are in demand. They book out, and if they book out, that means they're popular, and another one will be run. So a shameless plug for the website, but it's a good resource.
And I suppose Clarke, no more than any other business person, is also, while reading the papers, is very cognizant of, we've been stuck in a COVID world for 7 months. We really do need to move on and become more conscious of a Brexit world and Brexit environment. And I know whether or not there isn't a business that's not going to be affected. The belief that I don't export to the UK, so I'm going to be okay. If you've raw materials that are coming from the UK or using the UK as a land bridge, you're going to need to be aware of the implications. And there are plenty of Brexit supports online at the moment, and customs programs being made available. So please do. Consult the website.
So we're just over the 11:45 mark, or 11:48. So I think we've answered all the questions that appeared in the chat. So for myself, thank you very much. But I'm going to pass to Jackie to close out the session, and we hopefully will see you next week. Over to you, Jackie.
Thanks a million, everybody. And indeed, Greg, thank you for connecting with me after all of these years. It just fully validates we do need to keep connecting with people. Thank you for your contribution. It's been very valuable, I'm sure, to all of those who had coffee with us this morning. And I look forward to seeing you guys again next week.